Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of the Teaching and Learning Conference. My name's Alan Belcher, and I will be your host for this particular session, which is titled, We Rise by Lifting Others, Virtual Mentoring of Associate Faculty. Your microphones will be muted during this presentation, but I encourage you to post questions, comments in the chat, and our presenters will respond to them afterwards. And I am pleased to introduce to you our presenters for today. Denise Maxwell serves currently as a lead faculty for the Master of Arts in Education program in the College of Arts and Sciences. Kelly Olson Stewart is faculty lead for the PhD program in education for the Department of Education and Liberal Arts. Debbie Carpenter serves full-time as assistant professor and faculty lead for Faculty Support and Development team, where she serves as a reviewer and mentor for associate faculty. And Jen Robinson has been teaching for Ashford since 2016. She currently teaches students all the way from the associate degree program through the doctoral program. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and our presenters will respond to them eventually. Colleagues, it's all yours.
This presentation will disseminate online faculty mentoring cycle and data collection in the Department of Education and the Liberal Arts. And our goal is to provide you a baseline framework of how to incorporate mentoring with online adjunct faculty in a way that leads to faculty support and growth and ultimately student success.
Our objective during this presentation is to describe how we have used the assessment tool of the Instructional Quality Review process, or the IQR, to identify associate faculty who could improve their instructional practice through the support of working directly with a mentor. The IQR framework provided guidance to identify specific areas to target through mentoring, modeling, sharing of expectations, and the use of artifacts to support the instructor's growth. The participants in this session will also leave this presentation with data that indicates mentored faculty demonstrated improved performance and increased retention data for veteran faculty members based on growth during their mentoring while teaching their 5 or 6 weeks in their course. The conclusion to the presentation will present how the mentoring approach evolved based on feedback, what was initiated based on the review of results, and next steps that have been implemented to enhance the success of the mentoring approach. The FSD team consists of, or the Faculty Support Development team, consists of an eclectic team of veteran full-time faculty members. The approach implemented to support faculty with mentoring and assessment of teaching is truly a team approach. The members of the team complete IQRs, walkthroughs, provide mentoring, and develop artifacts to support each of these approaches. The members that are part of this team have also demonstrated their own proficiency in teaching their courses either at a proficient or a distinguished level. The members of the team represent all major degree programs in the Department of Education and Liberal Arts. There's also an effort to align the faculty to review teaching and courses within their own area of expertise and experience. The Dell FSD team meets monthly to review the IQR components while discussing the scoring of each element to achieve greater consistency in the implementation of the IQR rubric. The team members also work on developing artifacts to assist in the review process, mentoring, and providing exemplars for outstanding elements in teaching to support the instructional practice both with full-time faculty and associate faculty.
Our main tool is the Instructional Quality Review rubric, which includes the 5 areas of focus, which every instructor is evaluated using, including ourselves. And these areas are fostering critical thinking, instructor expertise, establishing relationships, high expectations, and instructive feedback. These areas are all focused during mentoring of our associate faculty, and you'll hear about the specific growth of each of these areas. Our on work is around alignment and calibration of these components while collaborating to ensure consistency and clarity. For those of you not familiar, here is the performance level IQR rubric we utilize with those 5 components listed on the left, numbered 1 through 5, and the specific descriptions for each level of the rubric. And the goal here is to have all instructors in the highlighted proficient column be moving to distinguished. We also use the online faculty course requirements document. Note, this document is provided in every class for every instructor and sent by the faculty support and development team in an email. It includes the specific bulleted requirements for instructors in each area of the IQR. These indicators really help provide focus and clarity for all of us as instructors about the expectations and additional best practices. Now, additionally, Dell has generated this other column that includes that we call Dell clarifiers. We've worked to clarify the language and highlight best practices with an ongoing focus, again, of moving instructors from proficient to distinguished on the rubric. This document really ends up being the true guide for us as instructors, as it provides a roadmap of expectations for our practices in each of the 5 areas.
So let's talk a little bit about the who and why of mentoring. It's important to note that there are 2 purposes of mentoring in the Dell. The first we call first and second course support. This is designed to target brand new faculty who have just completed orientation and they're ready for support in all areas. Performance mentoring, the second type of mentoring, is the focus for today's presentation. And this is designed for experienced faculty who have taught a minimum of 6 courses and have been identified for targeted support based on their instructional quality review scores. Typically, this means that they would not be demonstrating proficiency in 2 or more areas. The faculty must agree to take part in and complete performance mentoring before being offered future courses. Now, each mentorship provides 4 essential elements: expectation setting, weekly emailed communication of strengths and opportunities, resource sharing, and finally, archiving of the final report, as well as all back and forth communication for future reference and scheduling decisions. Oftentimes, the weekly emails are supplemented with Zoom video screen sharing so that mentors can share and demonstrate things to their mentees, and/or phone calls. Essentially, we want to provide individualized support to each mentee's communication preferences. Now, before we take a deeper dive at the data, we wanted to look more closely to determine the experience level of those that were identified for performance mentoring. So we gave them 2 distinct definitions: veteran versus new. The veteran faculty, this would pertain to anybody who had had a previous IQR prior to the IQR that triggered the need for mentoring. So that they may have taught for us for 1 or many more years than that. The other definition is what we call new, and this means that the faculty member has taught their 6 initial courses, and upon the first IQR, that was the IQR that triggered the mentoring. So if you look at the slide, you will see that the overwhelming majority of faculty that are identified for performance mentoring are veteran. So what could be the reasons for this? It could be many things. One, maybe evolving expectations. I know I've been here as a full-timer for nearly 8 years, and the expectations aren't exactly the same as they were when I started. It can also be attested to the natural phenomenon of just becoming settled in one's practice and doing things over and over again. It could be limited professional development in specific areas of the IQR, or simply, and we hear this often, it's just being unaware of changes that have occurred. Our belief on this team is that all faculty want to be the best that they can be for their students. And the positive in this aspect of the data is that we're identifying and supporting veteran instructors in their continued improvement through our expectations, our modeling, and our feedback. This really demonstrates that our team is invested in the long-term success of our Dell faculty through their tenure at Ashford University, and our annual IQR review and performance mentoring are evidence of this.
In the beginning of the mentoring process, we wanted to determine if our mentoring efforts were being successful. So we started by collecting data and monitoring to determine if the mentees persisted in teaching at Ashford with proficient or distinguished IQR scores after completing the mentoring process. It is important to note, however, that the IQR process does not occur until 6 months to a year after the conclusion of the mentoring process. We have longitudinal data, which will be shared by Jen Robinson later in the presentation, but we're going to focus on the data from the 2 years of 2019 and 2020 for our analysis and reporting. As indicated on this slide, we have deactivated faculty who were not able to either improve their scores or sustain the growth demonstrated during the mentoring process. On this next slide, the data presents IQR scores collected from 2017 through 2020. This indicates the comparison between the pre-mentoring IQR scores and the post-mentoring IQR scores. Represented in this group are 51 instructors who received mentoring in 2018 to 2020. 35 of these instructors demonstrated growth on their post-mentoring IQR score. That indicates that 70% of those who were mentored were able to demonstrate improvement in their performance as assessed by the IQR. 5 of those individuals, or 9%, showed no growth, and 9 of those instructors, or 17%, had a negative change or went down in their IQR score.
So I have the lovely task of explaining some of the exciting benefits of the mentoring partnerships that we have seen over the 2019 to 2020 academic year. So Excel and I had a disagreement and Excel won this round. So as you're looking at our charts, the blue equals our pre-test, so that first IQR. The orange or reddish is after the after the mentoring, the IQR after mentoring. So think of those as pre and post. This chart represents the pre and post mentoring IQR data, and looking at it as a whole shows us that overall the mentoring works. Pre and post mentoring scores were run through a paired t-test, and we use the paired t-test to check for significance of individuals' IQR scores separated by time on either side of the treatment, which was mentoring. The paired t-test showed that the average of the post IQRs is a significant increase. The next few slides will break down the IQR by category and show the results in only that category. Overall, all categories gained in proficiency, but some gained a bit more than others. We will start with the category of least gain and work up to the category of most gain. In the category of critical thinking, fostering critical thinking, mentors support associate faculty by ensuring they are posting a minimum of 6 times in the discussion. However, faculty postings must also encourage engagement, promote critical thinking through asking questions that provide intellectual elaboration, address misconceptions, address themes, and utilize either course resources or bring in outside resources that support a student's understanding of the topic and provide intellectual elaboration. Of all categories, this had the least amount of gain. Although faculty do gain in overall scores, you can see from the graph that faculty hover mostly between 2 and 3. Although most meet proficient standards, this is certainly an area where we can encourage faculty to meet distinguished or challenge themselves a bit more. Instructive feedback is also an important category. Next to critical thinking, this is where the students and faculty work together to promote areas of strength and perseverance while working on teachable moments. This category had the next to last gain, or was in 4th place in terms of gain. Although we still can see statistically significant gain in this category, it will remain a focal point while supporting associate faculty. In this category, we are supporting associate faculty to use rubrics while grading discussions and in Waypoint, facilitate understanding of material where there was a misunderstanding, provide additional examples of content if a student appears well off mark of understanding, and strive to improve a student's writing skills such as grammar, APA, organization, accuracy, as well as ensuring that students are not receiving cookie cutter feedback. We want the feedback to be a bit individualized for each student. Mentoring yielded a statistically significant increase with instructive feedback. Feedback is a crucial area for faculty. Since we are an online institution, feedback must be robust and provide overviews for how students can improve their work and what they have done well. We know from research such as Dean and Gouache in 2015 and Hewitt in 2015, that positive feedback that both highlights what was done well and areas for opportunity is a factor for students persevering in higher education and online education specifically. The gain in high expectations was equal to instructive feedback, and this makes sense. Since the two areas we're looking for high expectations are in feedback and in critical thinking. Since critical thinking and instructive feedback increase IQR scores significantly, high expectations should be higher. In this area, we are supporting associate faculty as they meet the goals of active communication in multiple areas of the course, providing feedback meant to help students improve, holding students accountable for discussions and high-quality university submissions, as well as demonstrating how they, the associate faculty, are engaged in their own learning. Seeing improvement in high expectations is important. We want associate faculty to not only hold students to quality university work, but we want to make sure that faculty are also engaged in lifelong learning and demonstrating that in their course. Establishing relationships was the penultimate category of highest gain. This is exciting to see because we know that online students need engagement with their faculty to bridge the distance of online learning. The physical distance that is afforded in higher education can be bridged through establishing relationships. It was very rewarding to see that associate faculty were able to raise these scores and provide connections with students. By increasing their scores in this category, associate faculty are using the learning management system tools, in our case Canvas, to build and promote a community of learners. The category of highest gain was instructor expertise, and this is very exciting to see. Our associate faculty are students linked to industry and how what they are learning in class unfolds in the field. By making real-world connections between theory and industry, we can increase our students' learning and provide more context to course resources. It is crucial that students learn beyond the book, especially in online education. By supporting our associate faculty's connection to industry, we recognize their intellectual contribution to the teaching and learning practices at Ashford.
So what lessons have we learned from our mentoring journey? I'd like to nod back to what Denise had mentioned would be our outcomes for today. First of all, we recognize the power of the process. Through our structured program of expectation setting, targeted support, modeling, archiving of resources, all of this allows our mentors and mentees to be confident in their roles, and that mentoring becomes a collaborative experience where mentees build on their strengths and target their deficiencies. The IQR continues to be our guiding framework. We use it to identify mentees, to frame our initial expectations, to align our artifacts and resources with each criterion of the IQR, and in doing so, we have continuity in our work. The results, as Jen indicated, are evident. In all areas of the IQR, mentees showed overall gains in their performance. With weekly support, mentees increased their understanding of each IQR criterion and demonstrated this knowledge in their practice. Individualized support, in which strengths are celebrated and opportunities are prioritized and focused. This helps us to lift up our mentees versus deflating them. As is our motto in faculty support and development, we rise by lifting others. So in terms of steps initiated, we realized through analyzing this data that we needed a repository of resources to support the work of the mentor and the growth of the mentee. So a couple of years ago, we developed a site called COE 101, Community of Educators 101, and it essentially is a repository of resources. On this site, faculty can find a narrated overview of each IQR criterion with exemplars, tips, printable resources that support distinction in each category, and best practice ideas that have come from both associate and full-time faculty. It's an archived discussion in each criterion that anybody can access for tips and tricks. As for next steps, again, as Jen indicated, we do see continued needs in critical thinking and instructive feedback. And so this may call for additional explicit instructive training, modeling of best practice and process, exemplars, and additional resources to help support proficiency and beyond. The big idea we want to leave you with is that data drives our decision-making. We thank you so much for listening today, and we'd like to open things up for questions.
Well, thanks to all of our presenters. Really interesting information. Great to know that you're making a difference with all of that. There was a question earlier from Tina. What are some tips and tricks that a mentor can use to make sure their mentees participate more and are more active in discussions and other sessions?
Well, I don't mind starting on that. I think when it comes to the mentee's participation, I think it's really important to open up the mentoring to where the mentee would like to concentrate their focus for the coming week. We share weekly strengths and opportunities, but I think in turning it back to the mentee, you help them to also drive and take ownership of the conversation. The other thing that we do frequently is when we recommend a specific resource, for example, in COE 101 for a mentee to go view or to go review, we'll often ask them, come back and check in with me with those 2 to 3 greatest takeaways from that resource. What are you excited to try in your classroom next week? What are you eager to implement? So that the accountability lies with them.
And building on what Debbie shared, it goes back to some of the information Jen was sharing, that what works well for students also works well for our instructors. So highlighting where they are doing well, what are some of the things that are really going well in their course, and then doing the modeling to show them what it could potentially look like, giving them that incremental feedback so that they know whether or not they're starting to assimilate to the target. So the praise that goes along with it, I think, is so important, but also clarity around expectations. I think sometimes we've had instructors who thought they were doing fine, but with that discussion, they were able to have a clearer picture of what that might look like. And then they're provided some examples, not necessarily distinguished examples, but sometimes just proficient examples is enough to help them move toward that target.
I agree 100% with what Denise said. When I ask a faculty to consider how they can improve a specific concept, I will provide examples for how I do it and for how other associate faculty do it. So they have those explicit examples there, and they can start building their own habit forming from looking at those examples.
I think that oftentimes too, the mentoring relationship generates just a community that in online, when you are home by yourself and you are working away, that you oftentimes just want to bounce an idea off someone, or you've never seen another strategy on how to get the discussion moving, or you didn't know that you could open up the announcements to encourage, that to be another place of participation. So I find that there's so much bridge building with the mentor and mentee relationship that goes beyond the term of this official relationship, and mentees will still reach out and want to share something, a success they've had, or just feel re-engaged with new ideas and strategies, which is awesome, and share things with us as mentors that engage our practice as well. We're all using the same tool to try to move our practice forward.
I have certainly borrowed some things I have found in my mentees' practice as well. They have some fantastic ideas, as Kelly said. So it really is much of building a partnership, not just a I know you learn, but we're learning this together.
I will pull up, these are just some of the references, just a few that we included that I wanted you to have. And then additionally, our contact information is here.
Well, I would like to thank Jen, Debbie, Denise, and Kelly for the presentation. Great data that you guys have. Wonderful information. Folks are very interested in what you had to say. I would also like to thank our audience for participating and playing along with us. I hope you'll take a moment to complete that brief feedback survey from that link that's posted in the chat. And remember, you can access all the presentations from the TLC website. And we hope that you continue to enjoy the Teaching and Learning Conference for this year. Thanks for coming, everyone.